Hello, and welcome to Be My Own Boss podcast, where we're defending independent contracting and self employment. I'm your host, Mike Hruby, and this is episode 52, where we're going to talk about labor law laughs at us independent contractors. It's true, it might be the worst defect of them all in labor law. It treats us like we don't exist, or if we do, like we're little minions running around with squeaky voices or little small woodland creatures, but not anything consequential. We're just, we don't exist. However, our opponents have spent 87 years trying to get rid of us. They're trying to end independent contracting. They just don't like it at all. And it has their full attention while they work to undermine us, intimidate our customers, tell the media and Congress that we're inconsequential and sort of not a good idea and probably illegal too. We're just all the time maligned wherever we go, and yet we are the most hardworking half, roughly half of the working population are those who are self-employed, either full-time, part-time, moonlighting sometimes, or for the first time. So if you are sick of this second-class treatment for independent contractors in any occupation, there are over 600 of them, then this is the place for you, because we are working on that literally around the clock. I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, either with a brainstorm or with a panic, but we're working on it all the time. We are independent contractors are not dust bunnies. Let's get that straight. We are not some bunch of fuzz that built up where the traffic wasn't going. We are the heart of the innovative entrepreneurial economy, and we are in a position to demand respect from the law. In fact, there's no logical reason why it shouldn't have already given us that respect. But so we're working on that. We need an objective test of who is an independent contractor. We know we are. Each one of us knows that. But somehow the lawyers in D.C. cannot get that into the law. We've talked about that. We're going to talk about it in the future. We also need acceptance of our work, our responsibility for completing projects. We undertake them with a commitment to finish them. We do finish them. We finish them on schedule and on budget. If not, we're in trouble. And all of that is under our control, but we don't have the legal responsibility to be free to choose to make those choices. We need acceptance of our undertaking short-term projects. And we need Congress and the media to get with this idea that project work is fully legitimate. It frankly drives me nuts, because you almost anything can be projectized, and everything that is can be run better at lower budget, more fun to do the work, lower cost, higher chance of successful completion, and a much higher quality rate. So the reason for mentioning it today is that ignoring us has an absolutely huge damage. There are 10 ways we've discovered so far that are invisible. All of them are invisible to people in labor law, the public at large, but you've got to mention them, you've got to bring them up so that we can work on them. The first damage is the damage to the self-respect of the individuals. This continuous pummeling that we get in the law in the courts, in Congress, and in the media is that we're sort of incomplete as humans. Lorena Gonzalez in California said, "These aren't real jobs." She was absolutely false in that statement, completely off base. These are 100%. I have supported myself for over 40 years as an independent contractor. Sure, they're tough times. They're good times and they're bad times. You take them, you balance them, you learn how to handle them. You take them, you accept the extra risk to get the opportunity to make much more money, do things you truly enjoy, and to have more fun with the time you have. It's the simplest thing going, and yeah, it's a great deal. That's why 76 million people and growing are doing it. But there is no room for that respect in the law, and that's got to change. The second point is, once they have established this ability to not respect us, they've taken us out. They've taken away our standing to sue. Standing to sue means you have the right to come to court with your grievance and get heard by the legal system. And standing to sue is absolutely crucial. You'll hear the term, but independent contractors don't have it because the law is very, very cleverly written to harm only the buyers, who are more vulnerable to our opponents, than us, the sellers. So we've lost that right. Everybody else has, and you'd gain it again if you employed 10 people. But since you employ yourself, funny, you don't have you don't have that power. You don't have standing. Any lawyer will tell you more about this. The third invisible damage done is that it ignores our commitment to complete the work. This is crucial to getting the work because guys buy our services as fill-in, as emergency work, to protect overflow, to get specialty stuff. And they know that an independent contractor with experience is going to be around to finish it. That's why people spend money on 76 million short-term project workers, is because they know they're going to get a good job and they're going to get it done. And there means they have to balance that out if there's an individual shortfall. You remember Pat Benatar with her famous line, "They want someone to thrill me. I want someone to thrill me and then go away." And every independent contractor knows that that's the reality of working on projects. You're going to go away. So don't count on that relationship. Count on the project to get you through and then replace it with others. The fourth thing that's happened as a result of not recognizing us in the law is that it has made it easier for our opponents to accomplish what's called regulatory capture. Regulatory capture is what happens when the bodies, the entities, the people, the companies being regulated take control, effective control over the regulatory body and its laws. And that is, you have seen that entirely throughout the regulated economy in the last 4 years. I'm sure you were paying attention to what's been happening. The whole country has been horrified by it. But regulatory capture has been 100% completely successful in the federal labor department and in most state labor departments. And that is a horrible condition because it's so difficult to get rid of them. They're basically foxes that have taken over the henhouse. So we're going to be working more on this, but regulatory capture is something that rarely is talked about. You can look it up on Google or DuckDuckGo. It's a real thing, and it's really infesting all of the regulatory apparatus that is giving us such a hard time with being independent contractors. The fifth point is you get twisted regulations. when you get no acknowledgement of the validity of people like independent contractors, you can get twisted regulations like this AB5 you've heard about it, maybe you've heard the term. You've heard about the ABC test that grew up into its current malignant form here in Massachusetts. We've been working on it here for 14 years. This is a one twisted regulation because the seller takes the initiative in a commercial exchange like we have with our customers. You take the initiative to find the work and to present yourself as capable of doing it, a desirable buyer. So you take the initiative. So if any punishment's going to be measured, it's going to be in something you failed to do right. But no, regulatory apparatus punishes the buyer for buying, and you're not allowed to testify on their behalf. Nowhere are you allowed to say, I'm an independent contractor. We did this under contract. No, they ignore that. And that's a twisted regulation. There's a twisted regulation. Sixth, something totally new. This does not perceived anywhere. We don't have access to banking because banking in the form of character loans are illegal basically for banking these days. The Federal Reserve and the banking regulatory apparatus has converted all loan making into asset-based loans. You cannot get a loan if you're a regulated bank, and that's almost all of them. If you don't have, you can't make a loan if it doesn't have collateral. Well, if you don't have money, you don't have collateral, so you can't get a loan. But the banking system in the U.S. and in Venice, where they invented it, and all these other places, the banking system grew up making individual loans based on the knowledge that the lender was going to get their money back plus interest in the term from the individual they loaned to because they knew the individual or they were known to people they trusted. So the judgment was on, if I loan this to Harvey or Henrietta, am I going to get this cash back? I got my first bank loan on a character loan, but it was in the 60s and they still did crazy stuff like that. Banker got paid off. I got a story that I've used ever since, and yet that's no longer possible. So the normal place where you'd go to your nearest local bank as an independent contractor, and you'd borrow $1,000 for a better laptop or a fancy phone or whatever you needed. I mean, independent contracting doesn't really need much in the way of capital. And he'd say, I think we'll take a gamble here, right? Sign this and we'll give you $1,000 or whatever, $20,000. It's an individual judgment. It's blocked off to you, and that's the simplest way to get the capital you need for your business. Can't do it. So along with that, the sixth damage is you don't have a right to contract anymore. It's been taken away just because you employ yourself. You don't have full rights. You can't do these deals in federal law. It's astounding, and be assured that you can go forward smoothly in compliance with the law. Right of contract is one of the most important rights other than perhaps the First and Second Amendment. The eighth damage is that the federal government has abdicated, especially in the last 4 to 6 years, abdicated any defense of interstate commerce and international commerce on behalf of people who are independent contractors. Now, California is the most egregious example. They shut down independent contracting in that state, lost more than 1 million jobs, made all kinds of people move out of state in order to keep consulting or project working or driving or you name it, because the federal government has abandoned challenging those statutes on behalf of independent contracting, and they just let it happen. They've let it happen in Massachusetts. You can't write a contract that you can be assured complies with the law to contract in Massachusetts or California with a body, an entity, a company, or a buyer out of state or international. I used to be able to do it. We did it in my former firm. We had our farthest away contract was in Turkey, believe it or not. The guy was really pleased with the work. I can't do that anymore. There are laws against it. Maybe I can slide it by, but that's not what I want. I want acknowledgement. I want my full right of contract. And I want the independent and international too. Now, if you're driving, maybe you don't see it. But anyway, there it is. It's still there for anybody who does any kind of analytic work that travels easily, design work. The ninth form of damage is the basic immortality of really bad labor law court cases. And the worst one is one of my favorites, which is something called Wickard versus Filburn. And you've got to enjoy sometimes you just have to enjoy the badness. I keep a copy right here on my desk because it's so horrible. This was decided in 1942, so, nice up-to-date law. And it involved a guy who was a farmer south of Columbus, Ohio, and he farmed a few extra acres, more than his farm allotment gave him in 1941. And now we're nations at war, times are tough. He grew a couple more acres of wheat, which he was planning on feeding. Then his allotment in the fall, he planted the fall wheat. Then his allotment, he was going to feed it to his cows and to his chickens. And then those were going to be used on the farm, and he also reserved some seed, but that was for planting his next crop. All that was ruled by the courts as interstate commerce. I mean, gosh, it's not interstate. It's not commerce. It matches none of it. But because FDR had threatened to pack the Supreme Court and overturn all any decisions against him, the court acquiesced and then passed this case. Approved this court case, which made no sense, and that is now the law of the land, and that's the justification for the Fair Labor Standards Act. So we have bad laws with bad effects that damage a lot of people, and they go back to absolutely a different product of a horse, types of court decisions that are still valid in law, and independent contractors need to be able to push back on that. And if we did, it'll make a lot of things so much simpler. Finally, the final damage, and this likely affects all of you directly, is that your professional registration, your professional certification, any kind of even a driver's license, but like your university degrees, your college degrees, your certification, those have all been downgraded since you now can't use them as much as you could to their full extent in commerce. You can't get a bank contract. The regulations prohibit all these different things. Your education has been downgraded by the ability of the labor laws to continue to ignore you, and so. This is what we're fighting as independent contractors. The good secret is that I can help you change this if you help me change this, which is why Steve Johnson at Rideshare Rodeo and I are resuming our effort to get video statements into our system so that we can promote them and illustrate how many people really want to be independent contractors. They love working this way. They love the income. They love the flexibility. They love the challenge. They love the people they work with. They love their clients. And that's their choice. And why not? Then there isn't any good reason. Why not? So, to wrap it up for you, this is a big deal, serious flaw in the law, that it fails to acknowledge all the different damage that the law is doing, and it failed to acknowledge us as legitimate independent contractors. We need the Congress to step into the projectized future. We've done it. Congress can do it. We do discrete work. What is wrong with doing discrete work? We want freedom in the law to do our job, to do it our way, and to do it on our schedule. It's very simple. Be My Own Boss is the voice of adults with serious responsibilities, and we shall be heard. If you're tired of that second-class treatment that you've gotten for 87 years, I want you to like this broadcast. I'd like you to follow us on the channel, and I would like you to get subscribe so you can get the alerts. And we are going to keep bringing stuff you can use, information you can use like this. My name is Mike Hruby. Thanks for watching. See you next episode.